Okay, and we're live.
Hey, good evening, Somers, and welcome to the Somers Town Board regular meeting of Thursday, April 8th, 2021. I'd like to start the meeting with a pledge of allegiance, so if you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of
States of
America
America
and to the republic for which it stands,
stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you, and be seated.
Oh,
Okay, Patty, roll call.
Councilman William G. Faulkner,
Here.
Councilman Richard G. Clinchey,
Here.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.,
here.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico,
Here,
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
I am present. Thank
We got to
you.
go back to our regular seats.
I was gonna say, you just skip the order.
Okay, the first item on our agenda tonight is a public hearing. We have two of them. The first one up is for the placement of stop signs at Warren Street and Hackalaya Brown Drive and West Ridge Drive and Lovell Street. Patty, I'll ask for publishing and posting.
That was published in the Somers Record and posted on the town clerk's bulletin board on March 26th.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
That's it.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Okay, so as stated, we've had complaints about entering and exiting on the West Hill of Heritage Hills. Lovell Street is a pretty heavily traveled local street. People travel through, from Mayapack, Carmel, to come down through town to get to 35 to get to 684. There is a stop sign for Heritage entering onto Lovell, but it does nothing to, help them get onto, to make a left or a right on Lovell Street. Moving over to Warren Street, we've had numerous complaints. Same thing about speeding, but at that juncture, it's a difficult, one of the property owners has a very difficult time trying to negotiate a left-hand turn out of their driveway. And once again, it's the same type of straightaway. It's a thoroughfare that runs from a major route going through town, which is 202, all the way up Warren Street to Union Valley Road. And that's where people siphon off from Carmel and Mayapack, and likewise come down that road. So at this point in time, I'm going to open this up for discussion and comment for the public. Is there
Rick?
anyone else? Yeah,
Rick, I have one comment from the public. I'll read it in real quick and then I'll send a
Sure.
copy of it to Patty for the record.
yep,
It's regarding the stop sign on Warren Street and Hackalaya Brown, submitted by G. Peter Schmidt, 6 Hackalaya Brown Drive. My family and I have lived on Hackalaya Brown Drive going on 24 years, and I oppose the placement of the proposed stop sign. Through the years of watching and coming before the town board, it has always been stated that it's against New York state law to place a stop sign on a town road where the stated intention for placement is to slow traffic traveling the roadway. Many stop signs have been proposed over the 24 years throughout the town that have been turned down on this reason alone. The second reason was that the large 200-plus-year-old tree at the intersection blocking the sight line of the neighboring homeowner, if they lower or remove the fence, which I believe is located in the town's easement, the sightline issue can be solved without removing the tree. And 3, the extensive traffic that travels Warren Street, including large trucks and tractor trailers, all the neighboring homes will hear is a constant noise of truck air brakes and engines slowing and speeding off. Again, my family and I oppose the stop sign. I'll forward that to you, Patty, for the record.
okay. Very good. Any other comments? Paul, do you have any?
I'm sorry, I've never been to one of these meetings, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to interject or not.
It's a public hearing, so yes, you are.
Perfect. So I reside at 5 Hakalaya, and I would like to second what Mr. Schmidt at 6 Hakalaya had said, that I believe.
Ma'am, if you would just state your name and address.
Oh, sorry. Julietta Piccolo at 5 Hakalaya Brown Drive in Somers, New York.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I believe that it would just cause a large amount of congestion, considering the fact that Hakalaya only has 8 residences on the road. I think it's going to cause more accidents in the area, and I don't think that it is really justifiable considering how little traffic there is leaving Hakalaya and heading towards Warren Street. I believe Warren Street may need stop signs in other places, but I don't believe Hakalaya is the main issue or it's necessary to be placed on this road. So I oppose placing the stop sign as well.
Right, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I'd like to interject as well. My name is Bruce Brooks. I live on 9 Hakalaya. I lived here, this is my 20th year. I agree with Peter and with Juliana. I think it's completely unnecessary. The traffic on Warren is not that significant. And stop signs, in my view, the way people treat them now, they roll through them. I think it creates more danger than anything else. If speed is the issue, then I think law enforcement has to attend to that versus a stop sign. I oppose it as well.
I'm Liz Batista. I'm the 20 Warren Street neighbor with the large tree. I am actually in favor of the stop sign just coming out of my driveway, is even with the mirror, and we thank you, Nick, and Supervisor Morrissey, we thank you for putting that in. It's still just treacherous coming out of the driveway to be able to see, not just to go left, but also to make that right, because then you're swinging around the tree to come onto the street. I just, I'm in favor of the stop sign, and I do feel that the speed is significant issue on Warren.
Okay,
This is Bruce again. If speed is the issue, then there are other ways to deal with it, because people roll through stop signs, and I think you still have the speed to the stop sign, roll through it, and then you'd have speed from Hakalaya down to Warren, down to 202. Sorry.
I understand that.
A stop sign's not the issue.
Okay,
Not
for
the
me
sol-
as
not
the
the
resident
solution.
of Warren, I actually would need that stop sign for somebody to slow down at my driveway so that I could get out.
I would disagree. I've lived here 20 years. The traffic on Warren is not that significant.
Okay, but you don't live at 20 Warren, so
Yeah,
when I'm
let's-
coming out,
uh,
that's.
I
Everybody
live
can-
parallel to
Guys,
you
I
every
don't wanna
day.
get into- we're not looking for a
Perpendicular to
debate.
you every day.
Hold it.
Oh,
No,
Uh,
Oh,
We're
we're not looking for a debate.
It's
We're
not a
not
debate.
looking for a back and forth. Just please make your comments. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else there, pro or con, that would like to comment at the public hearing? Tom, anybody on the,
No,
Okay.
somebody said they couldn't get in, but maybe they did. They haven't responded to my text back to them. So that was all I had.
I have nobody on this side, guys.
okay. So,
Maybe they did.
Hi, can I comment?
and who are you, sir?
This is Keith Pico, resident of 2 Hakalaya Brown.
Okay.
Yes, I have 4 children that attend school here in Somers, and we've been here in the house for about 3 years now. We consistently see folks excessively speeding here, excess of 50 miles an hour. It's quite nerve-wracking to have my children wait for the bus here at the end of the corner. And I really don't see what kind of terrible inconvenience having a stop sign put in place so folks can obey the speed limit. I don't know that it's appropriate to have a cop stationed at our corner 24/7 to ensure that folks are obeying the speed limit. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Okay, so we obviously have pros and cons on the proposal. The reason we're having a public hearing in the first place is because there are concerns in the community. And this is the process that we go through. We'll hold a public hearing. We'll try to get, hear both sides. Chief, I'm going to ask you to comment on stop signs. It's my understanding that they really are not or are not supposed to be used for traffic speeding.
The purpose of stop signs is for people coming out of what I call the minor roads onto a main road to make sure that it's safe to go out. Vision. Stop signs are not made to slow speeding. As a matter of fact, there's a study that's been done. The placement of stop signs increase speeding. People go stop at the stop sign and then they speed to make up for the time they lost. Usually it's about 150 feet past the stop sign that they start speeding. So the purpose of stop signs is not to control speed.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, that would go for both of these locations. Chief, while I have you, do we have any data on accidents or
There's
speeding?
been no accidents that I'm aware of on Warren Street in the past year and a half.
Okay, how about on Lovell and West Ridge?
We have none there either, no accidents.
Have we put speed calming radar devices there at all?
Well, on
Yes,
Lovell,
we do. We put them on Lovell and we have them on Warren too. They do slow people down.
Chief, and one of your suggestions you indicated was possibly to try your mirror first for line of sight. Is that what I read over on Warren and Hackalaya?
yeah, it's been installed.
Oh, it was already there. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I haven't been over.
Well, it's either that or cut down the tree. Nobody wants to cut down the tree. That's,
Okay.
people come out of that house and they have a hard time seeing to the right. Plus there's a tree there, gigantic tree.
Okay.
So they out, excuse me, they out for the mirror.
The mirror is definitely helpful.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was saying the mirror is definitely helpful. We appreciate the mirror, but I think now we're also talking about the speeding. So I don't,
All right. Warren Street is not a big freeway like, say, Mayapack Avenue or even Lovell Street. It's really not conducive to speeding. Last night I spent an hour from 5 to 6 over there, right by West Ridge Drive. We had a total of 120 cars that came from 202 heading north. 80 of those cars turned into Heritage Hills at West Hill Drive. The speed was average speed with my radar was 38 miles an hour. That road is not conducive to speed. And as Supervisor said, further on up, it goes into Carmel. And that's a windy road. You have all you can do even at 30 miles an hour to stay safe. So that's my, the speeding isn't a big issue in my opinion, and from what I saw last night on Warren Street. Now, also, people, they see a truck coming and the truck could be doing 10 miles an hour, but by the noise and everything, it looks to the people that they're doing 50. People overemphasize the speeds of things. I've had people sit in my police car and show on radar and hide the radar to how fast, and it's usually very much faster than the cars are going. So the bottom line is people have to start obeying the law and speeds. That's the bottom line of all of this. And we did give out, admittedly, we gave out about 4 summonses last night for doing 40, over 40 on, that road is 30, Warren Street is 30. And we did give out 4 summonses, 43, 44, I think 46 was another one. And we are over there, whether you see us or not, very, very frequently. We being the police.
Chief, one question. Do you have, it's interesting, you have data there on on Warren Street. Do you have any similar data for Lovell Street by Westridge?
Yes, we do. Level Street, there is a speeding problem there because, as I said before, it's conducive, more conducive to speed the way it is. So it's the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. People, it's very hard to do 30, and we do give them a leeway by law or allowed. We give them like 8 to 10 miles leeway. After that, we will summons them. People come, it's like a main thoroughfare, it's what said, they come from Carmel and people going to work in the morning, they're late, and, they want to get to the super deli. At night, they come home the same way. There's a lot of traffic, but we are there and we do issue summonses. Again, we've had no accidents over there.
Is there a mirror there also?
Sorry.
No.
Over there
Mirror.
at Westridge? Is there a mirror there?
No, there's not.
Oh, okay. I forgot.
Are there
Thought
any,
was.
are there any other traffic calming suggestions you could recommend or come up with?
No, what slows people down, they see a cop, they slow down. That's
More signage, or maybe just have a, may have a permanent radar, reading device there.
yeah, we could put a permanent radar sign on it, like in Cherry Street, but we usually have a mobile one that we move all around town. Mosman Avenue. And
Yeah, we want to be, I think we want to be careful with that because we don't want to start having those popping up all over town, permanent. Yeah,
Not permanent ones, no.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I would be okay with putting something there, on and off, but putting something permanent, then you'll have other places calling for it also, and all of a sudden we'll have all these speed signs, So that's my opinion.
No, I hear that as well. I mean, they seem to work, but we've always had the practice of not using stop signs as traffic calming devices.
Right.
So we're at a sort of a little bit of an impasse.
No, we installed the mirror, which sounds like it's working or it's helping. The chief has already indicated that a stop sign's, in all experts' opinions, isn't going to help with the speeding. Again, if you stop, and then if you stop at all, if you don't do a roll through it, as we see on Sunderland all the time, where if it's a straightaway, they just sort of roll through it anyway and then speed up even faster. So, going by what the expert is saying, it doesn't sound like a stop sign might be the way to go.
When we've talked about Brick Hill, which is a similar sort of concern by people, we've talked about striping. We've talked about some things that we didn't think necessarily made sense, like planters in the middle of the street or that type of thing, making people slow down. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but there's only so much you can do. And
Right.
I'm not sure those are even appropriate places for striping. That does seem to work, but I'm not sure you can put it at every intersection. Obviously, enforcement and the use of radar. I know that those signs, it's give the speed limit. I know it makes me slow down and embarrass me how often I have to slow down when I see one of those. So I think that's about all we can. It sounds like it's about all we can do reasonably, but enforcement is the key, as the chief said.
Well, I'm going to recommend that, we see how the mirror works, and chief, if we can get that, the speed sign over there for, a trial basis, enhanced enforcement. But
it's over there now on Walnut Street.
it is? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the combination of that speed sign and the mirror, it's got to have at least, you can make that left-hand turn safer. And, and if you're taking a right-hand turn out of, your driveway, you do have a sight line to the south.
Say, chief, does the speeding device, does that keep record? Like,
Yes,
so you can see you can
so we can
analyze
see
what's,
what the speed is.
you can analyze what's happening, and that'd be interesting to see a little bit of that, but you're making your conclusion from that information.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if there was like some kind of more formal speed study or, just study for over time, just to get a better set of data.
Yeah, I think we can ask the chief at the end of the month or the end of May to maybe share that data. And we can present it at a town board meeting or, give you access to it.
Okay, thank
Rick?
you.
Yeah.
Rick, I got a comment, and again, on this phone, I don't have a name, but it says, why not a children at play sign? It works on David Road.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, hidden driveway, kids at play. Yeah, those are things we can explore with the highway department.
Okay.
I've been out, at least at the Warren, I've been at 2 locations, and the suggestion, at least from highway at the Warren Street location was the mirror, but he's installed a number of those kids at play. It's the driveway really is not hidden, but I think children at play is certainly a
I think that
valid-
makes people always pay attention.
Yeah. And it's not kids at play. It's like drive like your kids live here. So
Right.
it strikes you right in the heart. Yeah. Give the same courtesy you would for your own kids. I will mention that on the West Ridge Lovell Street side, our highway superintendent and Steve Wilfel, our town engineering technician, suggested more vivid, I guess, striping on West Ridge. To call out, I guess how far you go out to stop. So maybe we can, look at that as well.
The striping things of issue, interesting. We talked about this on Brick Hill, as Rich was saying. If you kind of narrow sort of the road with striping, people tend to slow down when the road gets narrow. But I don't know that practice, and I don't know whether that's effective, and would that be intrusive? And
yeah,
What slow people coming out of Heritage Hills? I don't know if you can put that on Lovell, but coming out of Heritage, if that's a problem where people are not slowing down appropriately or going too far past the stop sign into the intersection, there haven't been any accidents, as the chief said, but certainly striping is an effective measure of making people slow, at least for a short period of time.
Could I jump in on that striping for a sec?
Sure, go ahead.
As far as narrowing the road, I'm not sure that that's even legal to do. I know we have certain codes that we hit with the striping.
right. And by the way, this is Nick DeVito, our highway superintendent.
Sorry, I should have said that. I honestly feel differently about both spaces. Ms. Batista has a legitimate sightline concern. As much as it is speeding there too, it's also safety for her to be able to get out the driveway. I've sat in the driveway and tried to make a left-hand turn, and you can't see the southbound lane at all. So what I thought the mirror was probably our first bet, and see how that played out. And then worst came to worst, I wasn't against necessarily putting a stop sign coming south in that lane at the corner, and more for resident safety than even the speeding issue. As far as the Lovell Street signs go, I don't see necessarily the issue there. I've gone up there and driven both left and right out of there. It's not a sightline issue. It's more of I think maybe it's speeding there, which again that doesn't really.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Yep.
So from a public safety issue or resident safety issue, I'm not opposed to the stop sign coming south on Warren Street just to make it easier for Ms. Batista to get out of that driveway. And I also don't think, I saw another resident had made a comment earlier, I believe, about the fence being in the right of way. Even if you remove that fence, you have to stay about 10 feet short of the tree to see up the road, and then you have to pull up. And if someone's coming northbound on that road, you have to wait, and now you no longer can see if somebody had come down the hill. So you basically have to reverse again to look up. So I don't even know if the removal of the fence is the right thing. Ultimately, I think removing the tree is the most ideal. It's just we've had 2 arborists out there. We had NICEX arborist out there. It's really a specimen tree. It's a beautiful tree. It's the biggest sycamore we have in town. So that's kind of how we ended up here. Otherwise, I would have already taken the tree down.
Mhm.
Thank you, Nick, because I know you're probably one of maybe only a couple of us here who've come out of my driveway and who've seen it and experienced coming in and out. So thank you.
I did have one more comment, Rick, from somebody who said that they second the kids at play sign, but think a stop sign is unnecessary. And just comments off the phone.
Okay.
We can throw those. I'll get those up tomorrow.
Okay.
The kids that play signs and such?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea.
All right.
To be placed exactly where, Nick?
I would suggest probably maybe one between Open Gate and Hackalaya in the southbound lane, and then one coming up between 202 and Hackalaya.
And then we'll get some statistics on that.
On the speed, right, from, all right, I think that's,
It's a plan.
yeah, well, it takes a public hearing to pull all these thoughts and suggestions together, and that's why we have them. So I'm gonna suggest that, we put those signs, drive like your kids live here. We'll see how the mirror turns out. And then Chief, maybe, like I said, in about a month, maybe 2 months, because we're halfway through April already, you can share that data from the speed machine on Warren. And really not hearing any pros on the Lovell Street stop sign. I'm more familiar with that. And that really, I think, has more to do with driver acuity than it does anything else. When you get someone doing 48 on Lovell and you're trying to make that turn coming out of Westridge, either north or south, it's a judgment call, as all driving is. And then there's, when people are turning into Westridge and someone's trying to come out, that's an issue. But as the chief said, there's no accident data, no crash data to support, putting a stop sign there. And I think we're all agreed that stop signs are not to be used for, speed control. So I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing with
Second.
those recommendations that I've made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any further comment?
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks. Nick.
Thanks, everybody, for their comments.
Okay, so moved. All right, our next agenda item is public hearing on the proposed Comcast franchise agreement between the town of Somers and Comcast. Patty, I'm going to ask you for publishing and posting.
That was published in the Somers Record and posted on the town clerk's bulletin board. And I have to correct both of these. I have to correct the date for the last public hearing, which was March 25th, which was Thursday, not Friday.
Okay. Very good. All right, I'll make a motion to open public hearing on the proposed franchise.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. All right, so this franchise agreement, we've been looking, myself, Councilman Sirico, Gloria Anderson, and her Comcast committee, and Matt Skane from Comcast. We've been having a number of meetings, and I think it's a fair agreement. Some of the highlights of the agreement are that Comcast will donate funding for upgrading video equipment at Heritage. They will also, Heritage has purchased an additional building that Comcast has agreed to provide cable service to at no charge. as well as the other 3 buildings they currently do that for. And those are some of the highlights that I can remember from the agreement. So with that, I'll open it up for, public comment. Okay. And that's how you can participate. Yes, Gloria, you want?
Yes, I would just say that Heritage Hills is happy with the result. We appreciated being made a part of the negotiations between the town and Comcast, and we would be in favor of the town signing that agreement.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. And is Matt on with us tonight?
I'm here.
Okay, so there's the other part of our negotiating team, Matt Skane from Comcast. He's been very instrumental in, working out the edits and getting us to this part of the process, which is the public hearing. So I do want to thank Matt and Gloria and her committee and Councilman Sirico for, the amount of time that we spent on the agreement and to get to this point.
So I also want to say that, Matt puts a face to Comcast, which is a good thing. It's something that I think, we've been wanting, somebody to contact to work with. I think Gloria and the Heritage Hills team, certainly is in favor of. And so it's a good thing. So I just want to say that, Matt, appreciate working with you guys. And you've been flexible in a sense that some of the things that we brought to the table and you agreed to go beyond the traditional, framework of a franchise agreement. And we appreciate that as well. So, and Gloria, you're a monopoly buster. So there you go. Or an oligopoly buster.
I must say, the last time this franchise agreement came up, I'm sure many of us remember, it took months in the townhouse with people packed in with one complaint after another, given in the most vociferous way, and really anger, and justifiable when you heard the stories. So if this is indicative of improved service and the committee is happy, I mean, that is improvement compared to the last time we went through this. So I congratulate all of you on that because it's better than I expected. I'll tell you that.
All great accolades, but it's follow through as well. So, Matt promised to follow through.
I was going to say the same thing.
Oh, you take it, Gloria.
We are very hopeful that now that we have Matt as a contact person, that things will go smoothly for those of us who have Comcast as our provider, which is virtually all of Heritage Hills. So we are very grateful that he is there. And we're hopeful.
For everything and throughout the process, I know it's not fun to read these documents over and over again, but I definitely appreciate it. And although it's a face made for radio, you have a face for Comcast right now. So I definitely am, going to be available for what Supervisor Morrissey and Councilor Sirico. It was great working with you. I appreciate your flexibility too, because my wife gave birth in the middle of this negotiation type of scenarios. That's
for you.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and overall, it's a great deal for everybody. There's, reduction in any pass-through costs or any of the franchise-related costs, and the town still maintaining that franchise fee of 5% paid semi-annually. So much of it's a status quo, but there is a win for the Heritage Hills community while they're improving their facilities for public access television as well. So overall, appreciate all the effort that went into this, and thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you.
All right then. Tom, any comments?
Nope, all set.
Okay.
But at least I know it's working.
Okay. Yeah, we do. And Paul, anything from the public from your end?
No, I have nobody on this side, guys.
Okay. With that information, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved. Roland, at this point, do we move for a resolution on the, to accept the franchise agreement?
Yes, I thought I had seen a resolution that had been prepared by Comcast
Yeah,
for you to consider adopting because they have to send it to the Public Service Commission.
okay.
Is that correct?
There's a resolution that I can send you I can send you a resolution template that I have put together. I just need to update it. Typically we don't draft them, but I will forward that tomorrow if that works for you. Unfortunately, I don't think that would make it eligible to authorize supervisor to execute today, but it would have to wait till the next meeting that you have. Right?
What's the 25-page document I'm looking at that has a place for Rick's signature?
That's the franchise.
Franchise
Agreement.
That is, okay, but not a resolution, okay.
Yeah.
Right, so that I can sign. But
Right.
Matt and Roland, we routinely pass resolutions and then
I'm sorry.
catch up on the paperwork. I mean, we don't have the resolution in front of us.
Yeah, you can go ahead, but you need to complete that resolution so that it can go to the PSC.
Yeah, right.
So you can pass it tonight, which
Yeah.
gives you the authorization to sign the agreement, but you still need to process the formal resolution.
And the resolution says what generally?
It'll say that Rick was authorized to sign the document, but there'll be a lot of flowery language that the PSC likes to see.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's important that it has a consistent. There's a certain like the flowery language you mentioned. They want to see certain language in there with that resolution. I have one drafted up. It's just I would need to update it, and I'm assuming you could probably backdate it for this date, but you could not date the franchise agreement before this resolution was voted on or approved by the board itself. I actually experienced this in another town.
Okay.
If there's no urgency to it, you could wait until your work session, beginning of May, and adopt that formal resolution at that time.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right,
'cause Matt,
let's do that.
Just to do it by
What
the
is the
book,
franchise?
like the safest way.
All right, do it by the book. That's the recommendation.
Yeah, so like right now, our franchise is we're technically expired, but we're still functioning under the existing franchise, and we'll continue to honor that existing franchise. Nothing will change with the very turnkey status quo. But having that resolution and then executing the franchise after it's approved by the board, will then do it procedurally correct and put everything up to the PSC.
okay, so why don't we do this? We'll close the public hearing.
Wait, Gloria had something to say. You got to unmute, Gloria. You got to unmute, Gloria.
Sorry, I forgot about that mute button. Forgive me. I was just going to say that for the residents of Heritage Hills, it's our understanding that we cannot receive that $20,000 grant to purchase new equipment until this new agreement is signed. And we need that equipment. So if there's any way to expedite it rather than waiting until some meeting in the future, we would certainly appreciate that.
You can authorize him tonight and read whatever it is onto the record, and then just back and then date the franchise agreement for this point, like for tonight or the day after today, like for the 9th, you sign it the day after resolution, if that's what you want to do.
But Matt, you're still not going to make the payments until the PSC has approved the document, right?
Yeah, it takes 3 weeks, or it takes typically.
I mean, that effective date is going to be in the future anyway.
Yeah, it typically takes 3 to 4 months for the PSC to finalize and approve.
Yeah.
Agreement. So, obviously, I understand the sense of urgency in getting this passed as soon as possible, Gloria, but unfortunately, due to the fact that it takes a significant amount of time for these to be approved by the state, we wouldn't initiate the process of issuing that grant until we have approval by the PSC.
Okay. I didn't understand that we had that additional bit of process to go through before we could get the check, but thank you for clarifying that.
Close, it just takes a little time, that's all. but we'll get you there.
Okay, so we will put this on the May 6th agenda for adoption of the franchise agreement and moving the resolution to enter into the franchise agreement. That way they're they're together and, Matt, you can submit them to the Public Service, Commission.
Okay, and you'll have that resolution proposal, like template sent to you tomorrow morning first thing. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, you'd send that, Patty, you want to get that resolution?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Matt, you would send that to our town clerk.
Okay, great.
Which is townclerk@somersny.com.
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments, concerns while the public hearing is still open? Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Thank you, Gloria, for all your hard work, and thank you, Matt
Thank you for having
and
me.
Tony.
Have a good rest
Thank
of
you
your
very
day.
much.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Good job, everybody.
Okay, next item on the agenda is our public comment. Make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. So this is the opportunity for the public to comment to the town board on any issues that they have that they want to bring to our attention. As has been our practice throughout our COVID pandemic, we'll keep public comment open as people attempt to get in and voice their comments. With that said, Tom, do you have anybody for public comment?
You're not.
Okay, and Paul, anything? For public comment?
Hey, guys, no, I don't have anything on this side.
Okay, great. All right, so we will move along with our agenda. So the next item is department reports. Patty?
I have reports from the town clerk, building inspector, zoning board of appeals, plumbing, Bureau of Fire Prevention, Parks and Recreation, Planning and Engineering, Tax Receiver, and Director of Finance.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to the business of the town board. Item number 1. I can't wait to drop this agenda item, but it's the Town of Somers COVID update. I'll start with the week's statistics from the state. So overnight, they had 7,467 people test positive for COVID-19, which brings the total in New York State to 1,890,420. Over the last week, we lost 366 people to the COVID virus throughout the state, which brought the fatality number for New York State to 40,756. Westchester County, overnight, the night before last, there were 383 positive cases throughout Westchester County, which brought our total number of positive cases to 1,211,507. Over the past week, we lost 23 Westchester residents to COVID-19, which brought our fatality number up to 2,194. These are, staggering numbers to me. And we were seeing these numbers drop, but we apparently seem to be in type of a, hopefully it's a minor surge, but a surge nonetheless. So moving on to Somers.
Hey, Rick, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So we have 1,200,000 or so positive cases in Westchester over the past year.
Yeah.
We have about 900,000 residents. What does that say positive tests given in Westchester by people who work here or people who twice have tested positive? Any idea what that statistic means?
Yeah, well, I think it is anyone that tests positive. And if you tested positive, you had COVID, you recovered, and you got it again, you didn't get a vaccine, somehow you got it again. I think those cases are included. So they are a bit inflated, I would think, from that standpoint. And certainly, they have, they give us data on testing, but I don't really report that because, I myself, I had half a dozen tests over the last year, for the virus. And, there've been over, 2.4 million tests in Westchester County. Really, what does that mean? People, that number's so high because people do get tested, more than once. But on a local level, effective yesterday, we had 12 new cases in our town. That brought our active number, people currently with COVID in our town, to 149. And our cumulative since the pandemic began, we're up to close to 2,000. We're at 1,973. These, I spend a little time each week talking about hand washing and social distancing, and wearing masks. And I truly believe, we're doing well in our town. I see people being respectful. Yet, these are an increase. I was reporting last month single digit over new cases. Now we're back to double digits. So is this, spring break? Is it the new variants that are being, which are more contagious? I don't have the answer, but all I know is we have to keep on doing what we're doing. And it's a personal responsibility. People complain about not having hoops and basketball nets down at Reese Park. Well, that to put those up, that would be an unsupervised activity. We can't have COVID monitors there, making sure that the kids waiting to play are all socially distant, wearing masks. When you play, Rich, and this from basketball, do your players wear masks while they're playing?
Well, in high school, they would have to, but I'm sure not when they are at a playground or outside.
Right. So unless they're monitored, is
right
basically the point. So, we're going to keep, it's not popular. I don't want to cancel, pick up basketball games, but the harsh reality is we're not over this. And I don't want to see, our double digits go into triple digits as far as new cases go. So, we're going to keep on keeping on. We're all doing this together. No one's getting, special treatment. So, once again, personal responsibility. You got to wear your mask, social distance, wash your hand, and the vaccine is out there. So the more of us that get vaccinated, the better for the community. So that is my COVID update for this week. Okay, our next agenda item is our telecommunications task force. This is, as you know, a task force that's co-chaired by Anthony Sirico and Bill Faulkner. If you would give us an update on some of the activities that the task force have been up to.
So, some great news. I just that the state essentially issued a $72 million settlement against Altice. Just to put this in perspective as to why, if you all recall, in August, the storm was Isaias. We went through a week of hell and probably a couple of months of anger and frustration in terms of, their performance in the form of their storm response, their communication with customers, network sustainability, and just plain old being able to get the job done during that period of time in a responsive fashion. The town took a real proactive role. I mean, we took the position that we have the right to expect, sustainable service, a proactive storm response, and, most certainly responsive communications with the customers. The supervisor's office established a team there to handle trouble calls, to try to remediate some of the issues that we were having communicating with Altice. And we're actually handling trouble tickets on their behalf.
Yeah.
Rick,
So-
did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, Anthony, we filed a formal complaint, didn't we, with the Public
Yeah.
Service Commission?
So yeah, it started with, it's a long process, but from our perspective, we started with a formal complaint with the Public Service Commission. You issued it. We followed through with we actually took the lead, I think, in terms of working with Westchester United, which were similar communities. We were partnering together to, essentially build momentum and leverage against Altice with the company to essentially respond to our needs, but also, with the Public Service Commission in order to, get them to regulatorily address, what was happening. We wrote letters to the legislature down in the Westchester legislators. So when they were in front of Altice, they had the information at their hand. You and I, we worked with the other towns, and I think is it Senator or Assemblywoman Amy Pauling,
Yeah.
Scarsdale. They put together a
Definitely.
2-page report. We spent a lot of time, supporting that effort. That effort went to the Assembly and into the Senate and was presented to the Public Service Commission. Again, fortifying the presentation that we were dealing with here. We created a task force, and we put together, an action plan, to outline what we want and what we expect from Altice. And as a result of that, the commission in a very quick way, relatively quick way, issued a $72 million settlement addressing all those issues. So, they've also said that.
I just want to stress, when you say relatively quick, I mean, our experience with NYSEG, we didn't get any kind of a ruling or from the PSC for 2 or 3 years. I mean, this is unprecedented. I know
Yes.
that the governor said he wanted a quick response by the Public Service Commission, but when, just refresh our memory, when was the storm? What date?
August 4th, 2020. So
Okay.
August 4th. So within what, 6 months?
Right. Unheard of getting that type of, a fine established and put out by the Public Service Commission.
So, I mean, we also have contacts with, Altice has a face on it right now. And essentially, this is all about follow through. We don't have a tremendous amount of detail on the 18 million. I've spoken to them a number of times. They commit that they're going to be before us, at some point in the future, short time in the future, to explain, how they're going to allocate these resources and what they're planning on doing. Like with NYSEG, I mean, it took, a little bit longer. They're making management changes, fortifying their network, and changing the way their interoperability with their peers and utility companies. But they got to come before us and explain that to us, and establish contact points that
You're talking about on the task force.
on the task force. Yes.
So yeah, our task force continues, and we're trying to get players that we can deal with from Altice.
Right.
You know, because, you know, my office would like to get out of the, you know, complaint business.
The customer
Yeah,
service
we want-
business, right?
Or we want a retainer for working for Altice, because their communications during the storm were close to non-existent. You know, people, you know, we're in the midst of a pandemic. People are working from home. You know, the internet is crucial, you know, for people trying to work out of their home. And, you know, when that service gets disrupted for this amount of time and you don't have someone you could talk to other than, you know, the supervisor's office saying, okay, we'll take your name and message and relay it on. So, you know, good job. And, you know, I think this task force, you know, has a way to go. Now we have to hold their feet to the fire. You know, as you say, you know, it's results. It's, you know, let's see what's going to happen now.
It's an
Hey,
extraordinary.
Anthony, a question.
Sure.
So the settlement in the state is 72 million. Did that, since you have knowledge of what the grounds of the complaints were, did that strike you as what you thought it would be, more or less? Is that a lot of money, or that's not much money for that? What did you make of that?
Well, you know, New York State asserts that this is the largest settlement of its kind. So, you know, $72 million for the size of the company, I think, is substantial. But you know, however, you know, the task that they have before them goes beyond $72 million. You know, it's a multi-million dollar effort that they have to, you know, essentially, address to improve this thing. The $72 million is sort of a framework that they're being compelled to address. So they're being compelled to address, you know, communications with municipalities. You know, they're being compelled to address storm response planning with the municipalities. They're being compelled to address, you know, network sustainability and communication, you know, with the public. Now, how they take that forward and how they move that forward is where, you know, we have to, continue a full court press, with them. And so, you know, they're going to go through this. They're going to do their, analysis and say that they met, you know, their prerequisites in the settlement. But it's, you know, it's our job to essentially make sure that that happens and they follow through to essentially have the results that we
So
need.
Anthony, just to kind of frame this judgment was against Altice?
Yes.
Okay. Now I know it was done at the state level, but what other areas does Altice serve? I mean, are they local to our area? Are they Long Island? Are they other places in New York State?
Well, Altice serves, all of New York State, all along, Long Island. I mean, it's a huge geography. So $72 million is, you know, a lot, you know, is substantial in terms of, a settlement and a fine, but in of itself, it's not, you know, it's
right. Well,
like if you look at, you know, the $130 or $140 million settlement for the utilities companies. I mean, this company is not as big as NYSEG. All right. And yet, you know, they have something that's larger than half of what took place with the utility companies.
Right. Well, you know, I just equate when Rich asked that question about the expectation of, is this a high fine or low fine? I know with NYSEG, they were fined $10 million. $1 million of that went to the western part of the state, but the bulk of that, the $9 million, was in the southern tier. I think out of the Brewster division.
Yeah.
You know, so that was, you know, and now 72 million. So that, put that in perspective, right? The 72 is for their whole New York State operation.
Right. So we don't have the level of detail yet as in terms of how that's being deployed but we did have that detail with the utility company.
Right.
It's going to take a little bit more time, you know, to get there, but I think we will. I mean, they're going to have to, explain to us what's going to happen.
And if I can add to the answer for Councilman Clinchie, Whether 72 is a good number or a bad number, we can debate. I think what's important is that there's a number, because prior to then, they were basically operating on an exception monopoly basis. And now the Public Service Commission has some teeth, has some authority to do something, which will make them, I believe, a better partner rather than a monopoly.
What I think is also unique about this is that, the Public Service Commission, which is a state regulatory agency, right, is compelled them to do something that goes well beyond, I think, their auspices in some respect, because 2/3 of those products are regulated by the Federal Communications Commission, right? The regulatory authority as it relates to Altice is with Cablevision, is with the television service. They don't have regulatory authority over VoIP and internet. But the truth is, they all travel over the same lines. It's the equipment that creates the products. So that being said, when the network's down, everything's a mess. And so, I think they've responded very strongly.
No, I think it's, I'm surprised about the quick turnaround.
It's an amazing thing. I mean, I kid around when we say monopoly busters, but we're a small town and we're spending the time to advocate for our community, but we're doing it with partnerships with the towns left and right, north and south, east and west of us. And in conjunction with the county, in conjunction with the state. And we were able to move this. So congratulations to everybody.
Yeah, here. Very good.
All right.
As a consumer, thank you for all the efforts and success, Tony.
Yeah, we'll see if we can, sustain it.
Yeah. That's a perfect lead into our next agenda item.
All right.
Which is Sustainable Westchester. We have Representative. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Jasmine's with us tonight. We routinely hear from Sustainable Westchester, and I've given Sustainable Westchester a lot of credit for pulling together our community choice aggregation program, our solar farms, and Jasmine here tonight to give us an update.
Yeah.
Take it
Hey,
away.
Rick, before you do, let me just give thanks to Jasmine. Last Thursday, there was a municipal sustainability conference. Maybe she's going to talk about that. I don't know. Which was a 3-hour conference, and it had to do with learning about groups in Westchester like Riverkeeper and others, as well as each town presenting sort of an update of what's going on in their town. It was only quick, it was only a few minutes. Don Bleasdale from our Energy Environment Committee represented Somers. I was on the call, and he summed up some of the things in 2 minutes, but he did it well of what we've accomplished. But Jasmine was a great host, and she had so many people to solve so many people's problems who couldn't figure out how to get into Zoom chat rooms, and they were just calling Jasmine, get me into this chat room, because the third part of it was chat rooms on various topics, which I did attend 2 of those, and they were interesting. So the 3 hours at the beginning seemed like, wow, it was going to be pretty long, but it went pretty fast. And a lot of that was because of Jasmine being such a gracious and efficient host for that. And I see that Paul is here, I think, with her too, I believe. So anyway, Jasmine, thank you for last week, and good job to all the towns in Westchester who participated.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. The municipality or the Municipal Sustainability Conference was amazing. All in all, we had, I think, over 250 people show up from all of the municipalities, and we're actually looking to continue, maybe not the entire conference, but joining the sustainability committees on a quarterly basis, so that we do get to stay up to date about what all the towns are doing. Because Sustainable Westchester knows, because we work with all of you, but a lot of the committees themselves aren't always speaking. So it was a really great.
Yeah, I found out a lot from hearing from the other towns, much more than I thought that I would, which gave me a lot of ideas, and particularly Don Bleasdale. So you're right.
And, you know, everything that we do at Sustainable Westchester is about aggregating. It's about bringing people together. It's about, you know, increasing the information flows and the communication. So it really was a great event. And we thought we did well on our annual members meeting, which I don't know, maybe had 175 people or 150 people. But that 250 people on a Zoom, you know, in this day and age when everyone's pretty tired of Zoom is an incredible feat. So thank you for joining us that day. And, you know, definitely you'll have information about any other events as they come about. But today I'm going to talk about Westchester Power. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a little presentation, and I know that you all have a lot that you're working on. So I'll keep it brief, and then if you have questions, you could just ask. As Supervisor Morrissey said, today we're just here to give you an update on the Community Choice Aggregation Program, also known as Westchester Power. And so who are we? You know by now we're Sustainable Westchester. 44 out of 45 municipalities in the county and the county itself are members. We run programs that help municipalities become more sustainable in economically efficient ways. That includes community energy like Westchester Power and community solar, electrification solutions like Energy Smart Homes and our Clean Transportation Project. We now have new programs in the area of grid efficiency, and that's grid rewards and a virtual power plant. And then we have our Zero Waste and Recycle Right program. But today we're talking about Westchester Power. And so, you know, you all have heard this so many times before, but in case there's any residents watching that have not yet heard, this is a municipal electricity program where we buy electricity in bulk for residents and small businesses. We're able to set the criteria. We're able to educate and advocate for clean energy, advance the New York State climate goals, and even position municipalities for grants and certifications. Right now, there are 28 municipalities in the program. And yes, that number is growing. Last time we came here, the number was 27, but we had Tuckahoe join us in January. So we're now up to 28 municipalities, 115,000 residents and small businesses, and 26 municipalities in the green supply. And our program-wide greenhouse gas mitigation is 830,000 metric tons of CO2. That's equivalent to taking 180,000 cars off the road for a year, or planting 13.7 million tree seedlings and growing them for 10 years, which is always my personal favorite. And I do have my little seedlings started for my summer garden. So I know 13.7 million is an incredible number. And we get emissions-free New York hydropower. Somers is in the default supply, which is non-renewable, but for any individuals who have switched over to the renewable supply, it is New York hydropower that supplies all of the green power in this program. And you might recognize some of those names because they are all from New York. And what are the benefits of this program? As you all already know, we are a nonprofit. We're not an ESCO or an energy supply company. You know, this is a municipally vetted program where residents have a choice to either join this community energy program or stick with the utility. And we know that because of our large customer base, we can get competitive rates, and there's cost control and stability because of the market clout that we have. And, you know, the supplier is chosen through a public bidding process, and we try to be as transparent as possible. I'll cover the auction process in a few other slides. But, you know, we're really here to be a help to consumers. And so there's no penalties, no termination fees, no surprises. And anytime there's new pricing, it means that there's a contract renewal, and everyone is notified via official notification letter in the mail. What are the other benefits? Well, we are your consumer advocates. Even now, we are offering in-office support, AKA me from right here with my office phone. And so people can give us a call Monday through Friday, 9 through 5. Email us at any time. We have Spanish language customer service, which we're really happy about. And actually, Paul, my colleague who is joining us today, is Spanish speaking extraordinaire. And he just led one of our first Spanish speaking community workshops. And, you know, the big thing that we're here to do is mitigate climate change. So as I mentioned before, 830,000 metric tons of CO2. We were able to get 26 of our municipalities. Unfortunately, Somers wasn't included because you all are still in the standard supply, but for the municipalities who chose the green supply, that was 1,500 points for the Clean Energy Community Grant. And so as this contract renewal is coming at the end of the year, it might be worth considering whether or not to take the default to green because of the way that it does position communities for grants and other opportunities.
Right. Jasmine, just a word on that. Yeah, I think the board, maybe not in total, but we felt that, yes, the town will participate in the aggregation program, but it's really up to the individual. We just went for the lowest rate that we were committing a town to.
Right.
So, you know, but I think it's important to note that if there's anyone that's currently in the program under the standard rate, they can call your number, get their account switched up to 100% green.
Absolutely. And our number is 914-242-4725 in case anyone does want to do that. And this is a perfect transition going into rates and performance because these are the rates. So the basic supply is 6.719, which we round up to 6.72. And that is what the majority of residents and small businesses in Somers are on. And then the green supply is about a quarter of a cent more at 7.19 cents per kilowatt hour. And that is for the 100% renewable hydro. And so this is a rate graph showing from the very beginning of the program, the variable NYSEG rates versus our fixed rate. So anytime that you actually see our line jump or decrease, that is a contract renewal. Our rate doesn't just jump mid-contract. But as you can see, the NYSEG rate fluctuates. And over the past year, and particularly with COVID, the NYSEG rate had dropped. Not as significantly in Con Ed territory. We saw Con Ed rates the lowest they've ever been, but there was a drop. And so when you look at a median residential account, and so that's the median, that's right smack dab in the middle. The median residential account in Somers uses about 900 kilowatt hours a month, which is fairly large, but it makes sense because any apartments or buildings that are on time of use rates, like day-night rates, are not in the program because we don't offer a time of use rate. All of Heritage Hills, for example, is on time of use rates pretty much. And so there's a lot of apartments that aren't included. So that's why the kilowatt hours are so high. And so people on average in the most recent contract were behind the utility by about $6.85 per month. And from the launch, that's only about $1.20. But again, that's for a 900 kilowatt hour home per month. So if you use less than that, the number is going to be less. If you use more, that number would be more. But importantly, this program is a foundation for further initiatives. We are able to leverage all of our power for community solar. Community solar is just an incredible program. You get up to 10% off of your electricity bill by subscribing to a local solar project. And unlike with solar panels that go on your own roof, there's no upfront cost. Sorry about that. There's no upfront cost. There's no, installation on your own home. You just get credits on your bill, and then you pay back those credits at a discount. And so the benefit of this, besides obviously 10% discount, is that it's supporting local renewables. And now this year, around mid-year, we're actually going to be doing opt-out community solar. So once the utilities have consolidated billing, we'll be able to enroll people in community solar on an opt-out basis, just like the Westchester Power program. meaning it's much easier for people to support this local renewable and get credits on their bill. And you can actually be in the Westchester Power Program and sign up for community solar, support renewable in either one or two ways, and get that discount. The other program that we've really built on top of the Westchester Power Program, and another way for people to not just save money, but actually earn cash, is through our new app called Grid Rewards. And it allows you to reduce your usage during peak times and get paid for it. And so that was something that we piloted last year, and it is an exciting way to reduce your usage. One of the reasons why we're here to give you an update is because we're in a renewal year. So last year we chose a 1-year contract, and so this year we will go out for renewal again. And what do we do for renewal? Well, we have certain things that we look for from suppliers. We always want 2 supply rates, a green supply and a standard. We want fixed rates. We set a not to exceed price target, and we always will have a commitment to New York State recs. And so Dan loves his Gantt charts, but I think for everyone else, this is overwhelming. So the important part is these dates. So basically in July, we'll get the memorandum of understanding signed, just as with before. It'll have our price not to exceed in it, and all the other criteria that I just spoke about. Then at the end of July, we will put out the RFP, or the request for proposals. And then at the end of that RFP process, we'll choose a supplier. Notification letters will be mailed in early October, and we'll give you plenty of notice and, you know, things that you can send out to your residents and say, hey, you've got mail, check your mail this week. And then again, you know, just as with last year, on December 1st, enrollment will begin for people based on their meter read dates.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we signed up for 1 year. The prior contract was, I think, 2 years.
3.
Do you foresee yearly, or are we trying to get like 2-3 year commitments?
2 and 3 is certainly easier. It's easier to lock in and just be set. But we want to get the best rate for consumers. And so if we find that a 2-year or a 3-year contract is going to be several mils, you know, 0.01, 0.02 higher, then we're going to go with the lower rate.
Okay.
And we rather take the time to go out for another bid. And we also look at what the market's doing. If we see that there's significant market influences that, you know, indicate that the price is going to go up, then, you know, it might be better for us to lock in with a 2-year. But, you know, last time bidding, and we did use this reverse auction software, which you see here, and it's actually incredible. You watch these suppliers, and each of these little dots is a bid, and they're actually outbidding each other blindly. And so we do know that we get a competitive rate, but they do bid on 12, 24, 36, 48, and 18 months. And so we'll take the best rate from those.
So Jasmine, does the decommissioning of the nuclear plant, Indian Point, kind of weigh into your thinking here in terms of stability of rates and so on?
Yeah, it definitely did. So the last unit is being shut down this month. And so there's definitely a little bit of uncertainty in the market, but there's more uncertainty in the market around the price of the renewable energy certificates that we buy, the RECs. With the closing of Indian Point, it's not like we're not going to have enough energy. There's plenty of energy to go around. There could be a little bit more volatility in the market. One of the things that is important about Indian Point was that it was a base load provider, meaning it provided a steady amount of electricity throughout the day and night. And so the resources that are being brought on, including a new fossil fuel fired plant called Cricket Valley, will be able to cover what Indian Point was generating, but there could be a little bit more volatility. But actually, the reverse auction software that we use and the company that we use has a background in energy analysis. And so we look to them for a lot of that market analysis as well.
Is,
It's not
is,
just Jasmine.
is the nuclear energy part of the renewable energy?
No, it isn't.
No, it's not, right? Okay.
Yeah,
And-
right now, all of our renewable is hydro, and that could
Right.
change. But right now, the hydropower resources are the best bang for your buck in terms of the cost, and then also the fact that it's local in New York, and a lot of the hydropower, if not all of it, is low impact hydro, meaning that they take special precautions for the natural environment.
So when you when you buy the standard rate, or you opt for the standard rate, is there a portion of hydropower within that component?
Unfortunately not. The
Nuclear-
standard is just regular fossil fuel, non-renewable. There could be some portion of it, but it's not mandated. The renewable supply, however, is 100% green.
Okay.
Jasmine, a question. Is the price of energy simply driven by supply and demand, and as GDP increases and the economy improves, we would expect that there's more demand for energy and therefore the price will go up? Or is it driven more by the price of oil and other things, coal, that might be, especially in traditional forms of energy, that might be the driving force there, as those prices fluctuate also on supply and demand, but it's the price of the materials that drives the price for energy? Or is it simply the demand on the consumer end by business and households? Do you happen to know?
It's also natural gas, right, as well?
Yeah, it's largely the price of natural gas. Oil too, but natural gas is used more often, and it really drives the price. If you look at the price of electricity and the price of natural gas, they align pretty well.
And that new plant is going to be a natural gas plant?
I'm not it's probably natural gas.
Probably.
I can't imagine it's coal, but natural gas or oil or something. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely non-renewable. I know that much.
So has fracking affected that in recent years because of the release of natural gas from fracking?
Yeah, fracking is, the process by which the natural gas is accumulated and taken out and processed. There's definitely a lot of pushback on fracking because of
Sure.
the potential, water quality concerns. But related to your first question, natural gas is a driver, but supply and demand is a big portion of that. So for example, last year with COVID, we saw significantly less electricity being used. And a lot of people say, how is that possible? We were all home, right? But it was actually the industrial and the commercial sectors, which are the largest polluters, that were shutting down. And so we knew that we were going to run into a situation where the price of natural gas, although it was plummeting for a while, would rise again, because they actually had stopped drilling for it for a while because demand was so low that they couldn't justify continuing to run their operations. But in doing so, in stopping production, that reduces the supply, and so the cost rises again. So there's a lot of market drivers. Electricity and energy pricing in general is very complex, but you kind of hit the nail on the head with the moving parts, which are fracking, natural gas, oil, and supply and demand.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so I think this is actually the last slide that I have for you. But, as always, we're here to be of value to your residents and your small businesses. We will continue, our outreach. We've got social media. You can find us on Instagram, Sustainable Westchester, Twitter, SusWest. Facebook, Sustainable Westchester. We even have a YouTube channel with an informational videos. So Sustainable Westchester Media, people can get more information about the program. Of course, our website, sustainablewestchester.org. And then we're happy to do virtual community education sessions, which will hopefully at some point be in person again. I got my first shot today. So thank you. I'm so excited for, the prospect of being in person again. But, we're happy to hold an information session for your residents or some kind of how to read your bill. But that is the end of my presentation. So thank you. And I am happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well done, Jasmine. Thank you.
Yeah, that was well done and very informative and spoken from just clearly a point of view of expertise. So thank you. I would have liked to spend more time on the Gantt chart, as a big fan of Gantt charts, but other than that, it was really great.
Those Gantt charts, man.
Bill, we'll give you Dan's phone number.
Yeah, Dan would be happy to take you through all of it.
Okay, so thank you, Jasmine and Paul, for being with us tonight. And so if there's no other questions for Sustainable Westchester, we'll move to the next agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you, Jasmine.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, our next agenda item is to discuss Woodward and Kearns Professional Engineering Service proposal for the Business Historic District Water District Study and a townhouse and annex water supply discussion. So, Adam Smith, our water superintendent, has brought some issues to my office. And regarding, what our water at the townhouse and our annex, which brings, to bear, if we're having water quality problems, some of our neighboring businesses may be having the same thing. So we really sat down with Joe and Steve Robbins, who's with us tonight. And I'm going to kind of kick this over to Steve to get into the two actions. We have exceeded our limits on a number of MCLs, but the most recent one are these PFOAs, which we have found in the townhouse and the annex. And the Westchester County Department of Health has issued us notice that they want to know what we're going to do about it. I'm comfortable that we're not putting any employee at risk because we are already on bottled water due to high sodium content in our water. So, I'm not concerned that the public or our employees are at any risk of these contaminants, but they are something that need to be addressed. And so we thought that a study of the Business Historic District to create a water district to provide, high quality water, because we may not be the only ones experiencing this. So with that intro, Steve, I'm going to kind of kick it over for you to discuss what your proposals are.
Thank you, Supervisor. Yes, with the recognition that these perfluorinated compounds were newly regulated in 2020 in New York State with some very aggressive and low limits, the townhouse's water supply has tested positive, as have other water supplies within the town. And as a result of looking for the right solution for the town employees of the townhouse, and in recognition that the groundwater underneath the townhouse is the same groundwater serving other businesses in the Business Historic District, the town is looking to look further into whether forming a water district would provide a more economical solution for the town and for the neighboring businesses. So our proposal to the town has two components. The first is to continue working with town staff to understand the willingness of the adjoining properties to form a district and to look at where the water for that district would come from. Is there a well in the area that has a more suitable water supply and can possibly supply multiple properties with a single treatment system versus the town going it alone and providing its own treatment system, or possibly looking at water supply from the Heritage Hills system as well into the Business Historic District. My understanding from talking with Steve Wolfel is his informal conversations with the adjoining properties have been very positive and there's interest. And so our role here would be to take that that informal interest and put some meat on the bones and make sure we're presenting what that actually would cost and entail and what the path forward would be, so the town can then approach those businesses with more certainty and more information to answer the understandable questions that come with this options analysis. The second part of our proposal is, sorry, Councilman, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry. I'll follow up at the end.
The second part of our proposal is to, upon authorization from the town, to proceed with the design of a water treatment system for the townhouse. This would likely be a granular activated carbon filter to provide, to remove the PFAS contamination from the town's water supply. That being, showing the health department that the town is seeking a more comprehensive solution, but if it can't be implemented by a certain timeline, that the town has the ability and is moving forward with a solution to its violation.
All right, so in my mind, and this is just open discussion really, is we should be looking into forming a water district, because if we can move forward in a timely fashion with doing that, and we can get the Board of Health to go along with our plan, then, task 2 of your proposal would not be necessary. So I see, task 1, the study, is something I'd like to see happen, right away.
Yes.
And yeah, Steve Wolfel has had some conversations with local businesses. They're also public water supplies, and the health department gets records from them. So maybe experience the same things we are. So, that's the bad news is we have this contaminant. So Steve, why don't you just, you had mentioned to me the other day about funding, grant funding, and how forming a district like this would be something that would possibly be fundable.
Yes, there are grant funds out there for public water system improvements broadly. Those systems which are most likely to receive grant fundings and low interest loans are those where a violation has occurred. And that is true in this case as well. As much as we advocate for systems to be proactive and make improvements before there are violations, that violation is a major factor in being eligible and competitive for grant programs. So there are state and federal funds available, and that analysis would be part of our study here as well to lay out that plan to fund a district if one were to be formed.
So just to back step for a minute, there's been a change in the standards, right?
Correct. These are, that is a newly regulated pair of compounds, yes.
Right. So now we have a recent change in standards that is sort of pushed. How pervasive is this? I mean, do we need to be asking every one of our community residents to test for this compound?
It is regulated in public water supplies. It is not regulated in individual drinking water wells.
But so it's not unregulated, but if it's present, do we want to, is there a public safety, at least disclosure we should make, or, well, I mean, we're going down the path of creating or remediating something, as detailed as a water district, right?
Mhm.
But ignoring that, most of everybody in town here is on private systems. And the question is should they test?
Well, let me just chime in. I see these newly identified compounds the same as, lead, other water contaminants. Yeah, should the majority of our town people are on wells. And yeah, I recommend all the time that you should have your well water tested. I've had my water test. I know I have hard water. So we're treating for hardness. Because it was, gumming up the pipes and I'm getting leaks. But the testing, because I think we looked into this. I mean, to test for these contaminants, not a cheap test, is it, Steve?
It isn't. They are several $100s a piece, and the testing procedure is not something that the average member of the public could easily take on. And that's, there are certain types of clothing that you cannot wear. There's certain personal care products that you cannot use in order to prevent cross-contamination of that sample, because these are being regulated and tested for at parts per trillion level. So it's
parts per trillion.
Parts per trillion.
Is there any
So
data?
Steve, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, is there any data what the harmful effects of ingestion of PFOAs?
It is a chronic exposure, and it is cancer is the result of that. But it's not an acute hazard in the same way that bacterial contamination or even some of the chloride issues that the townhouse also has would have on members of the public or town employees that are on sodium restricted diets, for example, with high sodium in that water supply as well. So those are more immediate issues. These are long-term exposures to vulnerable populations is the concern. They're not something to be taken lightly. These compounds are pervasive. They are being found not only in water, but also in things like food packaging. They were commonly used in firefighting foams. They were commonly used in waterproofing on garments, on clothing. And the reason that they are so effective at what they do is that they don't break down very easily. And so we're seeing them stick around in the environment for a long time. The term being used is forever chemicals, for lack of a better term. So I understand the concern, and it is of a concern as a resident of the town as well, that we have found it in several places in the aquifer in the town. It is a good idea for concerned residents to get their water tested, and I would ask them to consult with the Westchester County Health Department to make sure that they're following the appropriate sampling procedures, as they are important to follow to sample correctly. In fact, go ahead.
No, but if you're measuring it in the aquifer in certain locations, does that mean that it's everywhere?
Not necessarily, but it certainly it doesn't mean that it's everywhere. But your point is well made. That the more places you find it, the more pervasive you understand it to be.
And
Steve, is this? So the PFOA, which stands for what is it?
Yes.
Perfluorification something? What is it?
They're perfluorinated compounds, and there are two of them, PFOA and PFOS, as the abbreviations, and I won't butcher them here on this, but those are the two compounds that are regulated by New York State. Other states are regulating more or fewer.
So I guess my question is, are these things that have always existed, only now they're testing for it and mandating certain levels of safety? Or are these new compounds that are introduced into the environment, have leached into the water supply, because they're newly used in the things you mentioned, even in fabrics, and we now sort of understand it. I know one of the things that is of concern to scientists is microplastics, infinitesimal sorts of levels of plastics that seem to get into everybody from water. Would this be a similar type of thing? So it's a new situation, or something that's existed, only now we're testing for it?
Existing, I would say within the last 50, 60 years, these are
Oh, that
man-made
long.
compounds. They're not, like plastics. They are man-made. These are not naturally occurring. So it is a result of the use of these chemicals and disposal of them, and the time it takes to realize the health effects of the use of these chemicals and the release of them into the environment.
So it's not the last 10 years, but
No.
over the last 50 years, and
Yes.
they start building up, I guess, into a level that is of concern. Right.
But to that point, that level that's a concern, there's a regulatory trigger here, right?
Correct.
That says after this amount, you're alerted, but does that necessarily mean that's a poisonous or detrimental amount? And then when you do that testing here, do you scale it? I'm over the trigger, but am I into the zone where it's significant?
I'm not qualified to comment on the public health studies that are the basis behind the regulation. So that said, it is set at a level that is protective of sensitive populations, not for a member of the general public that is in good health. So that is considered in the setting of that regulation, and it is a black and white regulation. You're either under, if you had 9 parts per trillion, you're under the limit of 10. If you have 11, you are over. There isn't a spectrum of concern and of regulation. And if you get above this much, you only have to do a little bit of action.
Of danger, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, this is kind of.
Are we mandated to take action on this, or is there recommendation that we do based by the whatever agency in the government, or just common sense?
The Westchester County Health Department has requested a response to the violation by the end of May from the town with a proposed action that the town would take.
We have to tell them, we have to come back with something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
But they don't tell us.
The question is, yes, we're in violation.
Yeah. And so you're suggesting that the remediation has to be some sort of a filter because you're removing a particle. That filter has to be of the design to catch 8 whatever parts per million, right?
Yes.
Is it expensive in a sense? Is it reasonable to put them in the locations just because it's safe to do so? Should that be part of, help me here?
Yep. They they do carry a cost. You're, for a system of this size, you're in the 5 figures level. You're not in the millions, certainly, to treat a system the size of Town Hall, but you're in the 10,000 range.
But to Rick's
do
point, he puts a water softening system in his home.
Yep.
Does he put a PFOA system in his home for a modicum amount of cost? It's a filter.
It is a filter. It requires maintenance. It requires replacement of that carbon after it has absorbed the PFOA and PFOS. Safe water is a priority of mine as well. So I hesitate to advise the average homeowner, but treating this substance is a good thing to do.
So Steve, I think I heard somewhere along the line. So these are carbon filters. At some point they get absorbed to their maximum. Then they can't just be thrown away, can they?
Nope. It has to be disposed of appropriately. Otherwise, you're putting these contaminants in a landfill. They do need to be thermally treated, burned at a high enough temperature to destroy these compounds. Okay, and that is a regulated matter.
So all right, town. So we put in a system, I think I see where Tony's going. Do we do a study or we just put in the filtration?
Yep.
It may be a $10,000 to $15,000 fix, but then obviously there's maintenance, but then what is the expense to recycle or to get these things to is it hazardous waste?
That service would be provided by the chemical system supplier, by the filter system supplier. And part of what we're doing here with this study is to give you all of those answers for a system specifically sized for the townhouse.
Okay.
And, so you have restaurants and the rest of the
Yes.
community, they're all using this. I mean, to me, I find it, Jesus, I mean, should we do, you're creating a regulation to say it's absolutely necessary to do this if you're doing this in a large scale, but in a distributed scale, you're ignoring it. And that's where most of the people are. And
But we're not ignoring it.
no, we're not ignoring it, but from a safety point of view, communicating it to, the rest of the town and sort of how to, should they be doing something?
Well, we're communicating it now through the meeting.
I get it. I get it.
To that degree. And then everybody, it's like, I think Rick or somebody said that, I think Rick said, everybody should, I test my water.
But you're not testing for this.
I'm not testing for this, but now if I test it again and I know that maybe I should test for it, I would add that to the test.
Right. So Anthony, even in the real estate industry, when you sell a home now, you have to provide your well sample.
Right.
You have to test for lead. Who knows? Maybe the real estate industry will jump on board with this and say, okay, when we sell a property, we want to make sure that well does not have PFOAs in it.
Well, I'm sure the real estate industry is not doing this voluntarily. They're probably being regulated to do it.
Well, right. I mean,
I don't think anybody's heard of this. I've never heard of this.
Well,
and I tried.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other side. That's the other side of it.
Wow. I didn't know all this.
No, it's brand spanking new. And I started our conversation with, as far as the townhouse and annex are concerned, we have a contract for bottled water. We have bottled water dispensers. Everyone's drinking bottled water. Yeah, you wash your hands with the water, but you're not going to ingest PFOAs by washing your hands.
I mean, the signs have been up in the bathroom for years about the
Oh
sodium.
my God! Yes. Yeah.
I'm familiar with this out at the airport.
Yeah.
I have been for a couple of years now. The
Westchester Airport.
water at the Westchester County Airport is it's contaminated on the entire site. And there, what happened was the Air National Guard, when it used to be at the airport, it used to do drills using that firefighting foam, and that had PFOAs in it. So the solution there, and in fact, it's contaminated off-site all of the commercial properties on New King Street, which is in North Castle. So I'm in the process of forming a water district out there for those commercial properties. And the county is contracting with Westchester Joint Waterworks to bring water to the airport. And they're going to run an extension to New King Street to solve the North Castle problem. Mm-hmm. So it's a big problem, and it's going to be everywhere. I understand in North Salem, it's affected a school. In Lewisboro, it's affected a school. So it's not going away.
And other states doing this as well? Or is
that I don't know.
It's New York
Yes.
State, though. Yes.
Well, it is regulated at the state level in New York, and other states have passed or are in the process of looking at these compounds. And each state is addressing it slightly differently in terms of the number of compounds that are regulated and the levels that they are setting.
Okay.
But it's not an EPA regulated substance yet, right?
That's correct.
I mean, it's kind of surprising. If it's this widespread, you'd think that there might be an EPA regulation for the country, since it sounds like it's a level of concern that's not illegitimate. And it sounds similar to up in Baldwin Place when we had that dry cleaners there that polluted all that water. We still are testing the water that comes out of there into that supply there and the other places around it due to that pollution long ago when they were just dumping that cleaning fluid out. So it sounds like it's sort of a similar thing.
Well, I think it is.
We got to take care of it.
I mean, the cleaning fluid was more toxic than I think this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
To put this in perspective, I think Steve mentioned this, that, you know, if you are immune compromised, you know, you are more at risk than, you know, a healthy person.
Over time.
We've just noticed or detected the PFOAs. We've all been drinking them, you know, for our lifetimes or for the past 50 years. But, you know, now that, you know, it's been identified, we need to do something about it.
But at least now, because of this knowledge, but when I goof something up, I now have an excuse. I'll just say it's PFOAs. I have no control.
There you go.
But I got a question for Steve. Steve, just so I'm understanding this, are we saying that, as the supervisor just mentioned, we have to do something in order to stay in compliance, or we have to do something because it's recommended? What do we have to do versus what would be a good idea to do?
You are out of compliance, and so you do need to take action to come back into compliance.
Is there fines and what's the penalties?
The county has not gone to that level yet. They've notified the town that it is in compliance, and they've asked for a proposed action that the town will be taking. And I assume that if they don't like the action that the town is taking, then they can take further actions and proceed further with that. And I know the supervisor can speak.
And how new is this regulation?
It was effective for systems the size of the townhouse in late 2020, mid 2020, late 2020.
So less than a year old.
Yes.
Is there, you talked about grants and so on, but this is almost like an unfunded mandate. I mean, are there programs or, are there any similar situated types of things like this that are, maybe paid for or subsidized from the state or the government?
There are programs that are targeted towards PFAS. Yes.
Did any of this qualify under East of Hudson funds, the $10 million that's been put away that we've spoken about for the Shadow Rock, Lincolndale area, because we would somehow better protect the reservoir, the water system, or this is just an entirely separate issue that would not qualify under any circumstance?
Yeah, good question. Is it in the reservoir systems?
New York City DEP does not have this at a level that exceeds the MCL in their systems, and I don't believe that Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks, which supplies the Amwalk Center Rock Water District in town, it has as well. So those water sources, if it is present, it's below the MCL, the maximum contaminant level. Sorry, the regulated level. For that, I'd have to go back to double check the wording on the memorandum of understanding for that settlement or the settlement with DEP to see if this would qualify. I would be surprised, but I will go back and check that wording.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you know if we test for that in the Amwalk, Center Rock Amwalk Water District? Do we test for it? Do you know?
They are a regulated public water supply, so yes.
Yeah.
But we don't know what the level is offhand. We just presume it is below 10.
No,
it is below 10.
It is below. The Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks, which runs the Amawalk plant, does routinely test. They're a public water supply, and they are below the action levels in that system, as are a lot of other places. And that's
Yeah.
what kind of strange, the aquifer that runs, through the historic district, apparently, exceeds the MCLs for PUFAs. Now, the idea of doing this study is really just to start checking with the businesses, maybe the homes on Scott Drive, St. Luke's, the Mobile Station, even down to the Burger Barn. And if there is contamination above the level for all those places, then we'd like to know that. And if we could actually come up with a plan to connect to Heritage Hills Water, I mean, they're not far away from us. Look, the Chico's is a connection at the junction of Heritage Hills and the Chico's.
Is Heritage Hills Water in compliance?
As far as we know, yes.
Would we know?
I asked the question, and the answer was no. They're not subject to any MCLs right now. They have no violations.
Right. So that would rule them out if they were. But if that's a viable, actually, I asked that question before we asked for this proposal. I wouldn't study something that there's nowhere to get, unadulterated water.
All I have to say
Regardless, they would be required to treat for it as well. And so it's not, I don't think it's a null option regardless, but certainly the economics of providing water that, is treated by that supply would be weighed against the cost of treating your own water, with the additional issues of sodium and chloride that the townhouse has currently.
Do you find it interesting or curious that the wells for Heritage Hills, which are just to the north of the townhouse on Route 100, are not above the level, and yet the water supply for the townhouse is that surprising to you? It sounds surprising to me.
What we're finding with these compounds is that while they are common, it is hard to predict, how they move through the environment as well. So it is surprising, but I wasn't shocked to hear that either.
And this is my layman's look at this, but Heritage Hills is drawing from wells that are dug, deep. And I think the historic district and the town wells are drawing out of an aquifer, not necessarily a drilled, 200, 300, 400 foot down. So they may not be drawing from that aquifer where
Right.
the compounds are being
There
found.
are other substantial differences in the water quality. Heritage Hills needs to treat for iron and manganese in their water supply, which is not an issue of concern at the townhouse, for example. So
No, it is just different.
So can you remediate this by drilling for deeper wells?
you could look for a different source. Yes, but that's certainly no guarantee, and that exploratory work is quite expensive.
Right. I mean, I don't know how expensive. I mean, it just seems within a change in a regulation within 18 months, you were turning upside down the entire, planning of communities in a sense by trying to having to create water districts and looking for ways to remediate this and doing it in such a short period of time.
Well, with
no help from anybody who's issuing the regulations.
The health department has put a timeline on a response from the town to the notice of violation. It hasn't required a timeline for remediation.
Right. So gentlemen, that's what we're discussing right now. So do we go take care of ourselves? Do the study for what type of a filtration system we would need for just the annex and the townhouse? Or do we look at a bigger picture? Do we find out who's contaminated in the business historic district and kind of, pool resources and form a water district.
And it's almost like a cost analysis. I mean, I almost have to know what the first step is going to cost us to do, let's say, it on our own, and say, what would it take to replicate that 10 times if 10 times is present,
I would say we just got to figure out how
That-
far, where does this go to?
In what way, Rich? Go to in what way?
Well, I mean, who else is affected by this?
I agree.
Heritage Hills isn't. We are at the townhouse. We have, I think, an obligation to see, well, how far down does this go? And to the shopping center, like Rick said, down to Burger Barn or Mobile Station or further. I think that's important to know. And then decide what to do after that, I would guess.
And then you look at what might individual systems cost versus the concept of trying to put an entire, water district in place.
Right. You could weigh that. Yeah.
All right, well, one of the proposals in front of us tonight is to do a study which would basically address those things that you just talked about. It would be discussed with nearby commercial property owners, understand what their issues are, review well construction, water quality.
So we would have to require them to test first, right? And who would pay for that?
If they are regulated as a public water supply, and likely those small businesses would be transient non-community public water supplies. They have their own compliance timeline for doing testing. The town isn't requiring it. The state is requiring that.
For MCLs, I mean,
Correct.
for PFOs.
Correct.
So we need to know that information to move forward, right?
Correct.
So you got a coordination issue here.
Correct. And to his credit, Steve Wolfel has been having informal conversations with a lot of those property owners to understand, what are they testing? When is their compliance schedule look like? And what is their general interest? And
are they obligated to comply? I thought we were saying this is just for municipalities.
No, this is not just for municipalities.
So then where does
It's not for it. I don't believe the requirement applies to domestic non-public water supply systems. But
so what's the scope? I mean, is it towns? Is it every town? Is it town-owned property? Is it residential? Is it commercial?
it is all public water supplies, which could be small. A school can have its own public water supply. A business can have its own public water supply.
All right, so get back.
It's not necessarily just municipal scale public water supplies. There are different tiers of public water supplies. The Amwalk-Shenorock Water District, for example, is what's called a community water supply. That's its categorization within public water supplies.
What's Lincoln Hall?
Lincoln Hall would likely be either a community water system or a non-transient, non-community water system.
All right, so
we don't know what their situation is either.
I know, that's what I was asking. I was wondering.
Yeah.
So get back to the center of all this. I mean, Rick, this is a proposal for the townhouse.
No, the first part of this is an $8,000 proposal to do this study.
I would do the study. I mean, the study would involve finding out if people are interested, but also does it involve doing the testing?
No, it involves doing cost estimating, though, on what the options would be to evaluate whether a district is something that you'd want to move forward with or propose more formally.
And
the testing's already been done at the townhouse, for example.
At the townhouse, but that's what I'm saying, though. But the other places, obviously they're going to be more interested in a water district if they know that their testing is coming up over 10.
And however, they may have other water quality issues, just like the townhouse does in terms of sodium and chloride or hard water that they're also looking to resolve. So here with this, we would be piggybacking on a lot of the work that town staff has done and just formalizing and providing that cost analysis.
I mean, I don't think it hurts to do the study. It's, I mean,
Well,
it sounds like every
I'd
time you
like
turn
more
around, there's,
information before we authorize money to be spent on this. And I'd like to understand what we need to do to stay in compliance. And of course, we'll do that. More importantly, we want to understand what we need to do to keep people safe. And of course, we'll do that. But because this is so brand new, there's a lot of unknowns. And I don't know that we can go to our people in the business historic district and say, hey, have you heard of this new thing that we're all going to be forced to comply with? My guess is most of them are going to say, no, I have no idea. There's a new law passed about something I've never heard of that I have to do some compliance work on. I need more information before I can move on any sort of study.
okay, well, let me just respond to what you just said. It's not new to every business in the historic district is a public water supply. They have to routinely test their water. So those this got passed in August of last year or thereabouts, and they're testing on a cycle. So, we've been through 2 testing cycles and came up with hits. We have to presume that so has Mobile Mart, so has Citibank, so has the pharmacy, so has
Burger Barn.
across the street, so has El Forno. Yeah, so it's new to the board, but believe me, this has been, bouncing around, and this, is kind of, I wanted to bring this to you as a part of the business of the town. Once again, I started this by saying, look, my main concern is our own employees. I'm confident they're not at risk while we do this study because we're on bottled water anyway. They're not drinking PFOAs. But I think if we begin this study, we're going to have a better handle on what it's going to take to form a district, as well as this will buy us time, I believe, with the health department. If we go back to the health department and say, hey, we're conducting a study right now in our business historic district because we want to connect to a water supply that if it does develop any contaminants, they're going to treat it, and we're still going to have high quality water.
I'm thinking out loud. I'm thinking that, the study makes sense as long as the presumption is that it's not, there to produce a water district. I think a water district could be an alternative, but first is to understand, what's the problem, and then what are the solutions? Water system, we don't know at this point that, that a water district is the solution. I mean,
where else are we going to get water?
What's that?
Where else are we going to get water?
They're getting water right now. I mean, essentially, do they have a problem, and do they have to remediate it? What's the cost for them to do it? Is it more effective to do it? But we might not find that they have a problem.
I will tell you that the commercial properties out on New King Street all studied individual remediation.
Okay.
I think Steve, correct me, but is it called a POET system that corrects the PFOAs?
If you were to treat it within the ground, yes.
Yeah. And in every case, they found that it was cost prohibitive and much less expensive to form a water district and have safe water. It also eliminates the need going forward for any of these businesses to have to undertake their own testing. So over time, they save money.
Okay.
Well, I would say
That's rational.
if we know that there's a whole string going down Route 100 of having levels above 10, then yeah, it would seem like we should do that and take care of the problem together in a district. Should it be restricted to the townhouse for some reason we can't figure out, or the townhouse and the little shopping center right next to it? Well, that would be a different story then as to whether or not a water district is the proper solution. Now, you might say, aside from that, even if there wasn't a problem with PFOs, we should explore that for a variety of other reasons. But right today, we're talking about this particular contaminant. And so I'd rather see that. Let's find a study, find out how far it goes, and then see what other issues you want to bring. If the levels are high, I would say, yeah, let's go forward, assuming the businesses would also want to do it for the reasons that Roland just said. But if they don't have a problem, maybe they want to be in a water district for another reason, but that would be a separate question, I think, from this
Well,
one.
and I would imagine, the water district, solves the other problems too. I mean, we're talking about the one problem here, but it solves the sodium problem. It solves any other problems we have, hard water and all those things going down the road. And if we have it in the townhouse, I agree with Rick. I'm sure we have it in all the other locations.
One would guess.
I mean, I think we move forward with the, with phase one and get the information, and then we'll be better informed as what we need to do.
So
And I think the water district and historic district, I would guess that most people there would be in favor of it.
No, it makes, I think they would regardless of this contaminant.
Right, exactly.
Steve, is this study going to tell us if this is prevalent in the other locations that we're talking about here, as Rich was alluding to?
Yeah, it's based on self-reported information or information that we can get from the health department. So I would expect that it would give us more information than we have today about that. We're not proposing to physically go out and take samples from each location.
No, they've had to do it, so the
Yes.
information is available.
Yeah, they just have to be willing to share it. Yes.
And I'm sure that I would think that they would be, again, just like Rick said, I think most of the people that we're talking about, even without this problem, would be in favor of some sort of a water district. And by Rick shaking his head, I'm sure he's discussed it with at least a few of them already. So I would agree with going forward with the
Guide
study.
the board to the right decision.
So I would go forward with the study, at least, start with phase one and see where we're at.
And what is?
I mean, in
this
the greater scheme of things, we're talking, I think phase one is
Well, look, if you want
$8,000.
to, we always talked about, putting a water district in. there.
Yes,
If that's what you want to
exactly.
do, go do it. Not on the pretense of PFOAs. But the PFOA thing sort of raises a worry for me, because if it is prevalent and we're not in compliance, that means everybody else that is not in a water district or in a business district or such on their own are facing the same contaminants.
I know, but we need to go, right now, the item.
Yeah, I got it.
The agenda item is the townhouse not being in compliant, and what do we do moving forward? So let's move forward with the study, and then we'll find out what the study tells us, and then we'll have to see if we need to broaden it out to other areas. But right now, there's a particular item in front of us that we have to take action on before the end of May, I guess it is, right, Steve?
Or the end
somewhere
of-
in that neighborhood.
Or the end of the night.
Yeah, or sometime tonight.
All right.
But I would say go forward with the study. Rick, I think you got it.
I didn't get an answer to that question. I don't think. What specifically will the study be telling us? What specific questions will that study that Steve is proposing answer?
Well, hopefully, Steve, it's going to tell us that, we're going to talk to the other bodies that are around, and hopefully they've been self-reporting. They'll give us the information if they're over 10, and we'll find out what areas maybe it's gone to. And again, I think most of the places there are businesses, and they're going to, they're going to want to share their information with us. And it gives us a basis to see, at least in the historic district, where we are. And then, like Tony said, you branch out after that. But let's take, we have to take action. We have to do something, because Board of Health is telling us we have to do it.
Right.
So we don't have the luxury to sit back and say, well, let's wait and check it out. We have to come up with something that we can give the health department, so we don't give them an opportunity, like Steve was saying, to then come back and say, oh, well, maybe we're looking at fines, or maybe we're looking at something else. We've been told by the health department we have to take action and get them something by the end of May. And I think what Rick's coming up with makes sense.
Councilman Faulkner, the answer to your question is the purpose of this study is to define the scope of the problem, to identify potential solutions, to provide pros and cons on each, and present those to the town board so that you have the information needed to make a decision on how to proceed, and you have all of the answers to the questions that you're asking now.
Okay, because on the one hand, I'm a fan of water districts. I think they're hugely helpful. I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing for the right reason.
I don't want to be, there's a lot of reasons why a water district makes sense, but we're not looking at this with the presumption that that is the only solution. We're looking at it as a potential solution, but giving you the range of options to decide from.
But let's start with the study.
Yeah, so one thing I want to point out in the scope of work under task 1 is review the capacity analysis for Heritage Hills. Do they have capacity to extend the water to us? And then discuss interest by Heritage in supplying the new district and cost of the water supply from that system. So hopefully at the end of this, we're going to have a cost for what it's going to take to connect to the system. Is that correct, Steve?
That's correct, Supervisor. Yes.
Okay. So the only other thing and maybe I missed it, was the time frame for this.
We would provide a draft technical memorandum back to the town with the results on this within 4 to 6 weeks from authorization.
Okay.
Okay.
The reply back to the county is, not necessarily, it does not require the results of this and for an action to be taken. It simply requires to say, this is how we're moving forward with
Right. Well,
figuring out what to do.
Right. If this gets moved, this is our answer to the health department.
That's correct.
And
we can move this. We can move it tonight,
then
Rick?
what? Once we have the information and we've responded, how much time do we have to take these action items or whatever our proposal is in the response and convert those into something that's completed?
We don't know that yet, though.
I guess I want to make sure I understand the question. Is the question, once we have a recommendation coming out of that analysis, how long does it take to put a solution in place?
For example, if we have to respond to the county and say, here's our response, we're conducting a study and we're gathering information so that we can make better decisions, then what? Is the county going to give us, till the end of the year? Are they going to give us let's just say a new water district is the appropriate solution? Takes quite a while to implement that. So if they want something done by 12/31 of 2021, we're really pressed for time.
That isn't what they have required, and so I would propose that the town's response to the health department include when they'll provide their next update to the health department with the results of the study and the town's intended action and next steps.
But you've said that they want a response and a plan. They don't have a deadline. So if they accept the plan and it takes 5 years, they've accepted it, right? I mean,
that's correct.
Stuff that's going on here. Just for giggles, let's get it started. But I would send the $8,000 bill to the county.
Well, my question to Steve is: did you mention before grants? Do we know that there are or are not grants for this? And connected with that, do you know if Surratt or your company has talked to our grant writers about that, about grants for this study in particular, or the study for a creation of a water district?
So we have not had direct conversations with the town's grant administrator about that. We, Woodard and Curran, have pursued funding for other municipalities that have faced this issue sooner because of their sampling timeline and compliance timeline and the size of their system. We will provide a funding analysis as part of this study that analyzes the finances as well, that identifies what those grant opportunities will be.
And you can also check with East Hudson.
Or they don't exist.
Yes.
Or you don't know if they exist.
They exist. I want to lay out exactly how they apply and the timelines for application and the relative competitiveness of the various different programs in an organized way to you as part of this study.
So you contact our grant writers to discuss it with them, as they may have a different approach or have different information or different experience with that?
I'd be happy to.
I think that should be done.
Yeah. Oh, no, we're gonna pull out all the stops as far as, funding goes. Yeah, which we do normally anyway. We're always looking for grants, and grants. All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Woodward and Curran to move forward with the Business Historic Water District study in an amount not to exceed $8,000.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so moved.
Get him, Steve.
Thank you. We look forward to reporting back to you very soon on that.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Thank
just,
you.
Steve, so I would say just revise the proposal, remove the treatment piece of it.
No problem. Thank you all.
There was an abstention. Where am I getting that from?
Excuse me?
Not me.
Somebody abstained?
No.
Oh,
No, we're all in favor, right? Is
Yep.
that what you were saying, Patty?
no, I thought somebody said I'm gonna abstain.
You're gonna, okay,
No, it's all good.
Yeah, she
Everybody
thought somebody said
agrees.
abstain, but nobody did.
no one did, no. Okay, next
Thank you.
agenda item is authorize the 2021 license application renewal collection to collect refuse within the town of Somers for Oak Ridge Holding LLC and AA Carting Rubbish Removal, Inc. per April 2nd memo from Patricia Talbot, Town Clerk, dated April 2nd, 2021. So that's in form of a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved.
let me ask Patty a question connected with this. A while back, we were talking to city about city carting, and they have a recycling surcharge on their bill. Did you ever get a chance to ask them if or when that would cease to exist? As they did say, it was a temporary solution based upon market conditions in the world of China accepting recycling from the United States and other things. Did you ever have a conversation with them about that?
Funny, yes, I did. But they were going through a lot of changes at that time, and I was told they'd get back to me.
All right.
So you know what? Let me reach out to them again.
That'd be great. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, just to see what their plan is, or they just figure we're going to forget about it.
Well, I don't think market conditions with China has changed.
No.
So I'd like to think it has, but they can't sell what they recycle. That's the problem. So, all right, I have an add-on. That will add on is number 6, and that is Carl C. Restaurant up on Route 6. They have requested that the town waive a 30-day waiting notice for their liquor license. And Patty, you want to expound on that?
So right before our meeting last week, we received a notice from this new restaurant, Coral Seafood, which has been trying to open on Route 6 for some time now, requesting their 30-day waiver of their liquor license. So I'm assuming they're going to open soon. This is a brand new liquor license, and it comes from a company which does their licensing for them, and they're just requesting the waiver. So hopefully we're going to grant it, and maybe they'll open up within the next 30 days.
So yeah, it has been our practice, just to remind everyone, we're always trying to be business friendly whenever we can. And this is one instance where we've done this numerous times for businesses opening, trying to get a liquor license. Instead of having them wait 30 days, the town waives that requirement and lets them, submit it right away.
I'm
So
fine with it.
I'll make a motion to authorize waiving the 30-day waiting period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so moved. Okay, under personnel, we have vacancies. Affordable housing, architectural review, assessment board of review, parks and rec, partners in prevention. I'd like to authorize the reappointment of Mr. Jim Boniello to Somers Park and Recreation Board for a 3-year term. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I think that given that, Mr. Boniello and the two motions or the two appointments on the consensus agenda, I think that there are not now any openings on the Parks Board in case that struck
Correct.
some
You
fancy.
are correct.
As of printing the agenda today, there was openings.
Yeah, okay.
That has not changed. Okay. Number 4, authorize the hiring of Mr. Frederick McQuillan for the position of full-time water maintenance worker grade 1 in the Water and Sewer Department for 40 hours a week effective April 23rd, 2021, with a delayed start date of May 3rd, 2021, contingent upon successful results of physical, drug tests, reference background, and driver's license checks in accordance with CSBA contract Appendix B at grade 6, step 10, at an annual salary of $73,615 per memo dated April 2nd from Adam Smith, Water Superintendent. So Fred is currently working with Northern Westchester Joint Water Work, and as being the past chair and now a trustee of that Waterworks, Fred has been an employee over there for quite some time and is highly respected. So we're getting someone that's tried and true. And just as a reminder, this is the unfilled Paul Green position. So, Fred, if this all works out, Fred he's in training to be the water department superintendent when and if Adam retires. So we're planning ahead. We're getting someone of high caliber to move into that position. So I'll make a motion to authorize the hiring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, consensus agenda item.
Rick, real quick, just a
Sure.
procedural question. Maybe this is for Roland, but it clearly says, that's subject to a drug test. Well, presumably that means illegal drugs, and that definition has changed recently. How does that impact our hiring process in that regard?
I don't think that that's necessarily the drug test they test for. It's legal now.
So it's just untested forevermore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Patty, what about certain jobs, like, I don't know, operating a plow, anything?
Well, Bill, that's a whole, right, that's a whole nother issue that.
Yeah, I was hoping for a quick answer, but maybe it's not going to be.
Yeah.
I equate it to, if someone shows up at work, and they're a heavy equipment operator and they smell of alcohol, they're going to get sent home. It's a lot different with marijuana. Certainly, it would be up to the supervisor to make that determination that this, driver is impaired. It's a new area. Police departments are going to have to deal with this as well.
Unintended consequences. Yeah.
Well, this should be.
Driver, everything's going to be okay for the driver. Oh, hey, everything's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things you can't, on the job, there's certain things you can't do and certain conditions you can't be in. What's on your private time, if it doesn't affect the job and if it's legal, regardless of what we may personally think of the behavior, it's not really our business usually.
it'll rise to the standard of alcohol. I mean, you just can't show up at work intoxicated. You may not be able to measure it though, but that's another matter.
That's the difficulty, right? It's harder to measure.
Exactly.
All right.
Bill, I don't know. That was a simple question, but a convoluted and complicated answer.
But the accurate answer.
Okay. Moving on to the consensus, 1 through 11. Any issues? Patty, oh, that's right. All right. Number 10, that takes care of a violation that we received for not having a contract in place. Any other issues, questions, concerns about the consensus agenda?
No, I mean, I'm looking at all the names here, but Rich Nash pops out. I mean, Rich Nash is a guy that I know for a long time. He was on the Yorktown Nursery School, architectural review board. He actually built the front of it and, remodeled the whole front with a group of, parents. And here he is. He's on the
architectural review
board. And so there he goes.
Well, and he's
the man.
He's on the Somers Litter Task Force as well.
Yes. Yes.
A driving force behind there.
Yes.
And, of course, Kevin Westerman.
Kevin, of course, yeah.
Good thing we reappointed him to the board because he's the chairman. He's doing a great job there. And John Papalata, also doing a great job on the Public Rec Board. So I'll make a motion to approve 1 through 11 on the consensus agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Okay, our next scheduled meeting will be our work session on May 6th, 7 p.m. Maybe we'll have some more information about public meetings. We are, we can't base it on the rate of COVID cases because those we're currently in a surge, but it is hoped that maybe we'll get at least some kind of face-to-face meetings amongst the board, in May or June. Let's see. So this brings us to our entertainment section of our meeting, starring our awarded town clerk. So Ms. Calba, take it away.
Okay, well, I do have a couple of actual announcements. Again, the Somers Litter Task Force is doing their cleanup weekend, which is this weekend, April 10th through the 11th. Their goal is to clean up all of Route 100. Bags and glove pickup will be available on both days at the townhouse from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So pick up your gloves and bags and please go out and clean Route 100. On April 17th, there will be a virtual wreath laying ceremony commemorating the World Circus Day. So that's April 17th. It's going to be virtual, so it'll be available on our YouTube channel. Somehow, some way, I always come with a fun fact for Mr. Clinchy. And I'm sure you're going to know what I'm going to say about today. On April 8th, 1974, yes, again, prior to my birth, Hank Aaron broke my heart even though I wasn't even born yet. He beat Babe Ruth's home run career record with 715 career home runs on this day today. And you really got to know me and my family because the sad part is he was an Atlanta Brave, and I've dealt with a long history of National fans and Atlanta Brave fans in my family. They look at us going, where do we get Yankee fans? But here I am.
There you go.
Rich, that one was for you.
Thank you, Patty. And the pitcher on that day was Al Downing, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
So he's to blame.
Oh, and it's Supervisor, I couldn't find anything on Devlin, Ohio because it does not exist.
Okay.
That was to my error of last week. I don't know why I thought Devlin, Ohio was a place and not Devlin, Wisconsin.
Well, Devlin, Wisconsin, we hold a grudge because they try to claim they're the originator of the American circus.
Fakers, fake news.
Yeah, we pulled that out and had a stamp made about it.
Right.
So there.
Well, on a good note that spring is upon us, King Cone is open.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
There you go.
always a sign that spring has sprung.
I think, I'd like to make a motion that the town board approves the postponement of the federal tax return deadline to May, to the middle of May. Can I have a second on that? We can take credit for it.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but you know what? Can you just reiterate for my friend Michelle, federal tax return,
Federal tax return.
not your April taxes that are due on April 30th, your town and county. Just
That's right.
make
We
that
don't-
very, very, very clear, please.
We would, at the risk of being glib, I might have delayed the collection of all the real estate taxes beyond,
No,
but they're due on April 30th.
yes, they are. We'll just turn this into an advertisement. Pay your taxes. Okay, if there's no
Okay, fine, all
further,
right.
By April 30th.
By April
by April
30th.
30th, yes,
Okay.
there will be a penalty if it's after that date. We have nothing to say about that.
All right.
Okay, so if there's no further concerns or issues, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor of aye.
So
Yes.
moved.
Aye.
And good night, Somers.
Good night,
You guys
everyone.
have a good weekend.
You too.
Good night, everybody.
Night. Thanks, Paul.